Have you ever wondered why making decisions on some websites feels so overwhelming? It's all about the choices we're given. In the realm of user experience design, decision-making is vital. It's the crux of the user's journey, the pivot point that can make or break the entire experience. UX designers play a key role here. Their task to streamline and simplify decision-making processes. But how do they achieve this? The secret to simplifying decision-making lies in understanding Hick's law. So, what exactly is Hick's law? You might be asking yourself? Well, let's break it down into simple, digestible terms. Hick's law, named after British psychologist William Edmund Hick, is a principle within cognitive psychology that suggests the time it takes to make a decision increases with the number and complexity of choices. Imagine yourself at a crossroads with two paths. One path leads to the left and the other to the right. The decision-making process here is relatively straightforward, right? But now, let's add a twist. What if, instead of just two paths, there were 5 or 10 or even 20 different paths to choose from? Suddenly, the decision isn't so simple anymore. You likely spend more time weighing up the pros and cons of each path before finally deciding which one to take. That's Hick's law in a nutshell. Let's take another everyday example. Suppose you're at a restaurant deciding what to order. If the menu only has 5 dishes, you're likely to make a decision relatively quickly. But if the menu is a 10-page epic with hundreds of dishes, it's going to take you a lot longer to decide. You might even feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of choices. The same principle applies in the digital world. Whether you're navigating a website, using a mobile app, or interacting with any kind of user interface, the number and complexity of options can significantly impact your decision-making time. But it's not just about the time it takes to make a decision. Hick's law also highlights the cognitive load, the mental effort required to process information. The more choices there are, the higher the cognitive load. And when cognitive load is high, users can feel overwhelmed, frustrated, and may even abandon their task altogether. In essence, Hick's law says less is more when it comes to choices. By reducing the number and complexity of choices, we can help users make decisions more quickly and with less stress. And in a world where time is a precious commodity, that's a pretty powerful concept. Now, you might be wondering, how does Hick's law apply to UX design? Well, let's dive right in. UX designers like yourself can harness the power of Hick's law to streamline user decision-making. Remember, Hick's law states that the time it takes to make a decision increases with the number and complexity of choices. So, in the realm of UX design, this means simplifying choices to improve user experience. Consider this. You're designing a website with a navigation menu. If you overload that menu with too many options, users may feel overwhelmed and it could take them longer to make a decision. But if you strategically limit the number of choices, users can navigate more easily and quickly. This not only improves their experience, but also increases the likelihood of them performing the desired action, like making a purchase or signing up for a newsletter. Let's look at a few examples. Consider the website of a popular online store, say Chic Threads. They've applied Hick's law beautifully. Instead of overwhelming users with countless product categories on their homepage, they've simplified their menu to include only the most essential categories. This reduces decision fatigue for the users and makes navigation a breeze. Or take the case of a productivity app, Taskmaster. Instead of bombarding users with a multitude of features at once, they introduce features gradually, reducing the number of choices a user has to make at any given moment. This makes the app more user-friendly and enjoyable to use. But it's not just about reducing the number of options. It's about presenting the right choices at the right time in a clear and concise manner. That's where the art of UX design and the science of Hick's law intersect. Remember, the goal is to make the user's journey as smooth and enjoyable as possible, and sometimes less is indeed more. By minimizing choices and simplifying decision-making, you're not only improving the user's experience, but also increasing the effectiveness of your design. Applying Hick's law can make websites more user-friendly and improve overall user experience. So, the next time you're working on a design project, consider how you can apply Hick's law to enhance the user experience. However, it is not always as simple as reducing choices. When we dive into the realm of Hick's law, we encounter a few challenges and considerations. While the law suggests that fewer choices lead to quicker decision-making, this doesn't mean that we should always aim to minimize options. Let's imagine a scenario where a user is shopping online for a pair of shoes. If we only present them with two options, they might indeed make a decision faster, but they might also feel limited and dissatisfied. They might even leave the website to look for more options elsewhere. This is where the challenge lies. We need to strike a balance between simplicity, which accelerates decision-making, and functionality, which ensures user satisfaction. Now, this is easier said than done. It requires strategic decision-making. We can't just randomly decide what options to present to users. We need to understand our users, their needs, their behaviors, their preferences. We need to put ourselves in their shoes, quite literally in this case. For instance, we might decide to initially present a small number of options, but also provide filters and search features for users who want more specific choices. Or we might categorize options into different sections so users can easily navigate to the options they are interested in. It's also important to mention that Hick's law is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It works best in certain situations and not so well in others. For example, it might not be effective in complex tasks that require a high level of thought and analysis. In these situations, providing more options might actually be beneficial, as it allows users to explore different possibilities and make more informed decisions. Moreover, we need to consider the cognitive load of our users. If the choices are too complex or difficult to understand, it might lead to decision fatigue, which is the exact opposite of what Hick's law aims to achieve. The key is to find a balance between providing enough choices to meet user needs and not overwhelming them with too many options. Remember, our goal is not just to speed up decision-making, but to create a user experience that is both efficient and satisfying. Scene script, let's see Hick's law in action. Imagine you're navigating a website or an app. You're looking for a specific feature, but there are so many options on the screen that you're overwhelmed. This is where Hick's law comes into play. By reducing the number of choices, the designers could have made your task quicker and more straightforward. Take, for example, popular e-commerce websites. They often have a multitude of products and categories, but instead of presenting all these choices at once, they use a hierarchical structure, breaking down these options into digestible chunks. This way, you're not bombarded with 100 different options all at once. Instead, you're guided through a series of smaller decisions, making the whole process feel less daunting and more manageable. Similarly, consider the design of a digital camera's menu. If all the settings and features were displayed on one screen, it would be overwhelming. But by grouping related features together into sub-menus, the user's decision-making process is simplified. Instead of choosing from 20 features, you might only need to choose from 5 at any one time. Another instance where Hick's law shines is in form design. By limiting the number of fields and using smart defaults or autofill features, designers can help users complete forms faster and with less effort. This not only reduces the decision-making time, but also improves the overall user experience by making the process smooth and efficient. In all these examples, the key is balance. While Hick's law advises reducing choices to speed up decision-making, it's also important not to oversimplify. Users still need enough options to achieve their goals. It's about removing unnecessary choices and structuring necessary ones in a way that guides the user through their journey. This balance between simplicity and choice is the essence of Hick's law. It's a delicate dance, but when done right, can greatly enhance a user's experience. As you can see, Hick's law can be a powerful tool in UX design. So, to wrap up our discussion on Hick's law, let's take a moment to revisit the critical points we've covered today. We began with a basic understanding of Hick's law, the psychological principle that states the time it takes to make a decision increases with the number and complexity of choices. We then delved into the profound impact of Hick's law on user experience design. This law is instrumental in guiding UX designers to streamline choices and simplify interfaces, ultimately making products more user-friendly. Next, we explored the challenges and considerations while implementing Hick's law. It's not always about limiting options, but about structuring them smartly. Too few choices can be as detrimental as too many, and the key is to strike the right balance. We also witnessed Hick's law in action, with real-world examples demonstrating its effectiveness. From reducing cognitive load to increasing user engagement, the law's strategic application can profoundly enhance the overall user experience. So, as we conclude, remember that Hick's law is not just a theoretical concept. It's a practical tool that UX designers can and should use to create more intuitive and user-friendly designs. Next time you find yourself overwhelmed by choices on a website, remember Hick's law. And if you're a UX designer, think about how you can apply this law to improve your user's experience.